Hey everybody, we're the good doctors of Abbey Research. You are very welcome to our YouTube channel. I am Dr. Erin.
I am Dr. Kristen.
We're doing these kinds of supplementary Bridgerton videos to go along with our episode by episode recaps. And I think we're going to keep doing them with TV shows that we talk about because we find topics of interest and we want to expand on them and take them out of the episode by episode recap. So if you've watched some of our Bridgerton coverage already, you know we've talked about the problematic performative diversity, links below to other videos, that exists in Netflix's most popular show to date, most popular premiere show ever as of February 2020. And in our diversity video, we touched on, but did not elaborate on, the lack of diverse body shapes in Bridgerton, which is emblematic of a lack of diverse body shapes in all forms of art, and especially, but not particularly more than others, in the romance genre of books, which Bridgerton is based off of. So I have a guest with me today. No, I'm kidding. Dr. Kristen has been the person in my life having these conversations and having them in important spaces for as long as I've known her, and advocating for folks of her body size and all body sizes for the true inclusivity that has never anywhere gotten close anywhere, hardly, except for some books and some movies and some TV episodes. Mish. So as the resident expert on these things, I invite you to her TED Talk on body images on Bridgerton. Dr. Kristen, what would you like to share with our wonderful viewers?
I was in grad school the first time I saw somebody who looked like me on screen fall in love. And I was born in 1983. So it's not like this has been, sure, we got Sookie St. James on Gilmore Girls, but her weight was a constant joke and a constant punching bag. The first time I saw somebody whose weight was not necessarily celebrated or whose body shape was not celebrated, but was not mocked, was Hairspray, which I saw the movie of in 2007. And I was not ashamed at any point in time as I pranced around the world and said, everyone must see this movie because the fat girl gets the cute boy. And I could tell I made a lot of people uncomfortable with that statement. And I was just like, I have no idea what Zac Efron fully believed about making out with Nikki Blonsky. In my heart of hearts, he was okay with it. And I don't want to hear otherwise.
Especially from you, Zac Efron.
Especially from you, Zac Efron. Anyway, you went to, I understand what the world thinks about my body. Trust me, you have all told me all the time. You have told Lizzo all the time. You have told Adele all the time. You have called at me from cars. You have said to me on dates that people don't fall in love with people who look like me. You have turned people that look like me down for jobs because you perceive us as lazy or unhealthy. We've heard it. We've heard it all. We shop in the dark corners of stores. We have to have our own complete stores because most clothing brands don't deign to make clothes in our size. We pay more for everything from bras to jeans. I can't get a $12 bra at Target the way a lot of other people do because Target doesn't make my size. And they're better now. Everyone's growing. But my childhood, I spent shopping in the women's section of JCPenney. None of my clothes looked my age. And I'm so glad that is changing now for young women, that there are more body inclusive brands. I am so glad we're having conversations about body inclusivity. I'm so grateful to people like Sophie Hagen over in the UK, and Jessamine, whose last name is escaping me, but she does body positive yoga and it is incredible. I'm grateful to Lizzo for being herself, and being brave enough to it's bravery to be who you are in public with a body our size. And I am very aware as well that in the terms of the plus size spectrum, I am on the smaller end of that. And there are a lot of women who don't think I have a right to complain because I'm still pretty skinny, according to the scale of the world. We don't know how to talk about bodies. We certainly don't know how to talk about men's bodies either. I'm going to focus on women's bodies for a minute just because I have one. But the epidemic of expecting all men to look like Steve Rogers just came out of the Vita Ray in the first Captain America movie is really damaging. Chris Evans himself has talked about that.
It's really toxic, y'all.
It's really toxic. it's all of the Marvel actors have actually talked about that toxicity and how they miss drinking water and eating bread when they're filming those scenes, and it's not okay.
Which is not things that we should ask of humans who are entertaining us.
Yeah, and like Captain America is one thing because he's literally a mutant, and like that's fine. But none of the rest of them were in the way. Anyway, I digress. I'm happy we're also having some of those conversations that men are being asked how to be healthy instead of how to be cut in a way. And we're getting there. We're getting there. But when I was starting to read romance when I was very, very young, there was pretty much like a handful of plus size positive romance. The very, very famous one is one called Bet Me by Jennifer Cruzy, which stars a heroine who loves donuts with her whole heart. There are quite a lot of people that find it to be not a positive thing. It is for me. I read it at a time in which I had read nothing else where somebody a size 16, which is not my size, but was still closer to my size than a lot of the other ones that get described as athletic or svelte or usually also when romance novels say curvy, they still mean about a size 10 or a 12.
Yeah, I was about to say curvy does not mean
plus size.
Absolutely not.
So Bet Me is a really, really kind of famous one that a lot of people have read and have feelings on. Since then, and I'll say this is largely helped by the explosion of e-publishing, because the gatekeepers to publishing romance could disappear a little bit. People could self-publish. The e-publishing romance is why e-publishing took off, to be completely honest. And the amount of stories that people could tell could different. There's a whole tag on Amazon now that's BBW, and it's Big Beautiful Woman. And you can find all sorts of stories about lumberjacks and werewolves and school teachers.
We love lumberjacks and romance, let me tell you.
We're on a lumberjack kick lately too, but who love big beautiful women, and that means a size 20 or above. And there's talk about cellulite lumps and jiggles and all of that kind of stuff. In terms of mainstream publishing, there's been a couple really, really great books recently, which is wonderful. I'd like to recommend the work of Olivia Dade in particular, and we'll link that in the show notes. And there's a great book out in the summer of 2020 called One to Watch that I really enjoyed. But is it called One to Watch? I can see the cover. Anyway, we'll link it in the show notes.
Anyway, we'll find out and we'll put it down there.
All that to say, in the 2000s, when Bridgerton came out and I first read about Penelope Featherington, I had read romance enough to know that she was going to get a happily ever after. Like, she was enough of a character in the first book that we were going to spend time with her later.
Yeah.
And I hoped beyond hope that she was going to get Colin Bridgerton. Spoiler alert, she does.
Spoilers a go-go.
Spoilers a go-go from 15 years ago. But
if you don't want to know, this is not your video.
If you don't want to know spoilers, we are not your channel, because I don't know how to not talk about them. But in the first book, it is very clear that she is 2 stone heavier than everybody else. And 2 stone is 28 pounds. A stone's about 14 pounds. So she's 30 pounds heavier than she should be.
She should be.
She's 30 pounds heavier than her mother wants her to be. She's 30 pounds heavier than her sisters want her to be.
Than other debutantes.
We have no idea if she's 30 pounds heavier than she wants to be. But she's 30 pounds heavier than she should be. And between book 1 and 2, she loses that weight. And that is when she begins to become a conversation about actually having a season. The show touches this slightly. They cast Nicola Coughlan, whose body type is different than everybody else's, which is great. Nicola Coughlan is a little rounder, and she has no trouble saying that.
And we love her. We're huge, huge fans of her.
Huge fans of Nicola Coughlan. She still gained weight to play this role.
Mm-hmm.
I am unclear as to why Penelope needed to be that size. And then therefore unless they're going to make her be 15 pounds heavier through everything, and they can redeem themselves here for me if she does not lose the weight between now and next season and Colin falls in love with the larger Penelope.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I read that she gained weight for the role, my instinct was presumably so that she would lose it, and then when she gets her story, she's 15 pounds lighter.
She's a butterfly that has emerged from a terribly awkward shell. The truly important thing about Penelope Featherington's story is that when she gets to start to dress herself is when Colin finally notices her as a human and not a walking piñata. And that's her mother's fault, not her body's fault. So there is no one else in the cast of Bridgerton that is above a sample size. There is
not with a speaking role, and I don't think I can. I'm trying to think of background characters.
I recognize that in television, there's only certain people we want to see naked. I can respect that none of you want to see people that look like me naked. Respect that completely. And that the allure of television is a really big deal. And the visual of it is a thing. However, you can't tell me that you have a diverse show if you don't have diverse body sizes, if you don't represent what England looked like. The other like plus size person in the show, by the way, was Nigel Burbrick's mother, who was meant to be a buffoon.
Yeah, who was a joke. Yeah,
who was a joke, and her looks were meant to be a joke.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine if you had made a super skinny. I mean, Cressida Cowper's looks are supposed to be harsh and forgiving and unforgiving. Villains are body typed all the time. We talk about Ursula, the sea witch in Little Mermaid, as the only like plus size character in Disney, and of course she was evil, and based on a drag queen. The Great Divine, if you don't know what that reference is. But all that to say,
insider baseball, yes.
I am 37, and my relationship with my body is tenuous sometimes. I try really, really hard to be grateful for it because it still works, even when the days it frustrates me. I'm grateful it gets me where I need to be. I'm grateful that it is all of these things. But it is very tiring to look at love stories, and I'm never in them. It's very tiring. It is not nearly as tiring as the fact that Indigenous women never see themselves in love stories. It is not as tiring as the fact that a lot of other intersections of diversity never see themselves. But from where I sit and my perspective, this one's pretty tiring. And Bridgerton could have gotten real creative and real lovely with it. They could have made a couple quick tweaks. Nicola Coughlan by herself, like I said, even without that 15 pounds, the way that they're going to dress her was going to make her look heavier. I never want anyone else to be cast besides her as Penelope. So this is not a recast Penelope conversation. This is instead, why don't we make sure that Gregory's wife is a size 20? Why don't we make sure that Eloise falls in love with a girl who's a size 28? Why don't we think about having Benedict fall in love with somebody of any gender, even non-binary, who is maybe a little lumpy, as I call myself. Yeah. As a society, we haven't even gotten comfortable with people calling themselves fat. So and because we assume it's a bad word, fat's always evil. So I know we've got a long way to go here, but in my opine of this world that I love and that I would love to see more romance on screen, I want to lose myself in more happily ever afters on screen the way I've been doing in books for 30-ish years. Please let people that look like me have our stories.
Well, I know I'm grateful for Dr. Kristen's openness and vulnerability on that topic and having these important conversations. There are a lot of conversations happening on the interwebs about diversity in Bridgerton. And from what I have seen, that is not going very much further past racial diversity. And so we felt very strongly, obviously because of Dr. Kristen's life experience, but also very strongly that it's an important conversation that we need to be having about casting in any form of art, really, full stop. So we look forward to engaging with you on this topic. Please feel free to comment, like, share, subscribe, all those fun things that you can do on the YouTubes. And wherever we see you next, we will see you then. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.